Hello, Justin Davey here again. This is going to be about skin tones, something which I've only recently really kind of got an understanding of. Saw a very interesting YouTube by Larry, I can't remember his surname, I'll put a link to it. Amazing, really interesting about using scopes, setting your luminance levels, how to get correct skin tone, how to use a vector scope. Very interesting, and I thought I'd try it today. So I'm currently shooting at Cine 4 with Color Mode Pro. I'm using my Canon 24-105. I'm at f8. It's quite a sunny day actually, it's a beautiful day outside. And I just thought I would try and play around with some skin tone settings. I've exposed this to about IRE mid-grey at 55, so it might be a bit high still. And I'm just interested to see what we can make of it in terms of getting a decent skin tone. Okay, let's see what it looks like after the grade.
Okay, so I've now brought in the footage that you've just seen some of into Final Cut 10. And I'm going to have an attempt at trying to make the skin tones look better. Now, I do recommend you watching Larry Jordan's 27-minute lecture on colour correction with Final Cut 10. That's what I watched yesterday, and I'm going to try and replicate some of the things which he discusses. It is a brilliant watch. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Obviously, I'm just a beginner on this, so please feel free to comment, criticise, give me tips wherever you see fit. Okay, so we've brought in the footage. This is ProRes footage that's come straight off my Atomos Ninja Blade, so no need to render anything, which is quite nice. And the first thing that we're going to do is set our black levels. So we're going to use for that the waveform monitor. And interestingly, something which I have used waveform monitors in live situations before, in live outside broadcasts. I've done some vision engineering, racking cameras, etc. It's not my main area of expertise, but I have done it quite a few times now. And obviously, in a live environment, you haven't got the luxury of what I'm about to show you today. But something that I've never realised is that as well as using the waveform monitor to set your black and white levels or your luminance levels, Larry comes up with a very good tip, and he uses the histogram, because it's very difficult. Let's just drag a colour correction board onto this clip. Let's go to the exposure panel over here. Now, it's very difficult to know exactly where your black levels are. So obviously when I start moving down my shadows, you know, you might say, well, okay, well, where is my exact black level? You can see there are some pixels which are beyond black and some over here, etc. And he comes with a very good tip to use the histogram instead. So if you use the histogram, you've got a much more accurate way of seeing exactly where your black level starts. And you can see I'm slightly under here. So I'm just going to shift my shadow level up very slightly, probably to around there. And normally we would now play around with the highlight levels, but because I'm more interested in skin tone here, I'm going to go straight in, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to go straight into playing with sorting out the skin tones. Now, something which I've never considered before is obviously, and it's very obvious, blood is always the same colour, regardless of what skin tone you have, whether you're black, white, Asian, whatever it is. Skin itself has no colour. It really is the blood beneath the skin that's giving us the colour. But blood is always red, and that's why when we look on a vector scope, our skin tone line is always here. And Larry mentions that your skin tone should always be on this line, or 2 degrees above it, or there is another situation I'd have to refer back when it can be 2 degrees below it. I think that's for black skin. But regardless of who you are, what race you are, the skin tone should always be on this line. So we're going to try and achieve that. Now, the first thing to do is to get our grey levels correct. And again, watch the video for this, but Caucasian men, I believe, is somewhere between 45 and 50 and 65 IRE. Caucasian ladies go up to 70. Black ladies and gentlemen go down as far as 15 to 30 or something like that. Don't quote me on those figures, watch the video. But I do remember that for myself, Caucasian male, it's between about 55 and 70. So what we're going to do, how do we know what my skin tone grey level is? Well, the nice thing about this, obviously when we're working in post, is that we can create a mask. So I'm going to make a mask using the crop tool, and we're just going to select an area of skin. So we'll bring in the left, bring in the right, and we're going to see where my skin tone lies in terms of grey level. So we can mask my forehead, and we can see now, looking at the waveform monitor, that my skin is sitting at about, it's not too bad, but it's peaking at about 75 IRE. So first thing to do is to drop that down slightly. So back over to the colour board, and we'll go to our exposure wheel and our highlights, and we're just going to drop that down slightly. Now look at the left. As we do that, we can see that the grey level for my skin tone is now dropping. We'll zoom out a tiny bit, and we want that to sit somewhere between 50 and 70. So I'm going to sit it at about 65, which is probably about there. Okay, that's obviously 50, that's 75, so the middle is 62.5, so it's about 65 there. Okay, so we've done that. Now we'll go to our vector scope over here, and we'll have a look. Now there's not a lot of saturation in this clip at all because it was shot using Cine 4, which is very flat anyway. We want to try and get our skin tone onto that line. So let's go into our colour, and I'm just going to play around with the highlight control here, and look as I do. So if I add some more blue, you can see that as I go round towards magenta to red, you can see that the vector is moving. So what we want to do is try and get the skin tone onto that line, and obviously that would be super saturated, so let's try it at about there. So we've got a decent amount of saturation. It might be too much, who knows, but we can see that our skin tone is perfectly on that line. So now, just out of curiosity, that's all I've done. What we will do now is take the crop off and see what the image looks like. And that looks really quite nice. I'm very surprised with that. Let's turn the video scope off. And look at that. And that's all I've done, and let's just bypass the difference. So that's with it on, and that's as it came off the camera. So it looks, interestingly, looked quite nice when I took it off the camera, but you can see how cold it is and how cold my skin is compared to that. Now it might be a bit too warm, there might be a bit too much saturation in it. Maybe we should go back to the colour board and perhaps lift this slightly. But you can see now that that's added quite a nice skin tone. And we've also just increased the black levels a bit to give it a little bit more contrast. I'm quite pleased with that. So I'll now go back to the video and you can see what it looks like full screen. Thanks for watching.
So hopefully you've now seen how I've achieved this look, and hopefully it looks quite nice. Hopefully we'll have decent skin tones, decent luminance levels, and hopefully it looks quite well balanced. Cine 4 is fairly unsaturated anyway, so I'll have had to put some correction in. Obviously I'm doing this before I've actually done it, if that makes sense, so who knows what I've achieved. Please subscribe, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.